Hello class, and welcome to Biology 151, or more commonly known as the Biology of Pokémon. Yes, today we are having a science lesson, specifically biology in Pokémon. Just because there are lizards that shoot fire out of their mouths doesn't mean all Pokémon is science fiction. In reality, there are a few biological concepts that are present in the games that are scientifically sound. Today, I'm going to be discussing one of those concepts and its accuracy. I'm actually putting my biology degree to work. So class, let's begin. Oh look, it's a shooting star, so pretty. Oh, wait, what? It's getting closer. Should I get out of the way? Yeah, I think I should run, yeah. Oh, hello Clefairy, what are you? Oh no. It's an invasion. Quick, before they overtake the ecosystem. Well, I think we're a little too far gone here, but this is a fine example of what I wanted to talk about today. At first, there were no Clefairies here, and now there's a booming population. Why is this? Well, let's get into it. So, I've seen this occasionally in Scarlet and Violet, especially with the event outbreaks like the Goomy and Hisuian Sliggoo outbreaks from a while ago. However, I see it a lot more prevalent in Legends Arceus, specifically in massive mass outbreaks. When we are first being introduced to these events, we observe something very peculiar. A horde of Hisuian Zorua in Obsidian Fieldlands, which they aren't native to. Now we get to talk about one of my favorite things to hate on. Invasive species. An invasive species is an organism that is introduced to a habitat it is not native to. As a result, this organism doesn't deal with much competition with the native species, and because of that, their population explodes and starts taking over the area, like those Clefairies did. They aren't from Earth, they're from the moon. Allegedly. So they definitely had no predators from the get-go. Some real-life examples off the top of my head, Florida has a few. Iguanas, Burmese pythons, lionfish. Hate them, but they are delicious. But it's not just animals either. Plants can be invasive too. There's a fair number of ornamental plants that, if spread to forests, prairies, and other areas such as those, it could decimate the other plant populations. Many of these plants are toxic as well, so there are no animals in these non-native habitats that have adapted to be able to eat them to keep their numbers down. It's crazy how something you may see all the time and seems so common could actually be an ecological destroyer. Anyway, that's likely what these outbreaks are, the beginning of an invasive species event. So in reality, probably a good thing to go after them. Wipe them out before they decimate the ecosystem. So go forth and catch those Zorua in the Fieldlands. But let's talk a little bit more about invasive species in real life and in Pokemon. One invasive species that probably a majority of North Americans have seen before is the European starling. You know those flocks of birds that swirl around, go back and forth? It's something called murmuration. It's more than likely that the birds you're watching do that are the European starlings. These birds are not native to North America, if you couldn't have guessed with the name European starling. Starlings are one of the most infamous invasive species in America. This species is present because a pharmacist in New York, Eugene Schifflin, was a huge fan of Shakespeare and had a goal of bringing all birds mentioned in Shakespearean works to America. At some point between 1890 and 1891, Eugene introduced 100 starlings to Central Park. Yeah, you heard right. We started with 100. Now they can be seen throughout most of North America. In terms of Pokemon, this would be like putting 100 Starlies into Castelia City, and then they outnumber the P-Dubs all across Unova. It's not just hypotheticals though. There are instances of Pokemon being imported to different regions that are references from real-world scenarios. For example, Cufant was imported to Galar, and Yungoos is not originally from Alola. The Pokemon Sun entry for Yungoos says, "With its sharp fangs, it will bite anything." It did not originally live in Alola, but was imported from another region. Yungoos and Gumshoe are very likely based on a mongoose. Yungoos, mongoose, makes sense. You want to know something interesting? There's actually an invasive mongoose problem in Hawaii. In 1883, sugarcane farmers brought them over to help control rat problems. But you know what they didn't go after? Rats. Instead, they started going after native birds and turtles and have been a real threat to their populations. This kind of thing drives me up the wall. Invasive species ruin ecosystems. They are not good, plain and simple. I mean, technically, comb bees shouldn't even be in Unova if it's based on the United States/Manhattan. So, fun fact, honeybees in America are non-native species. Colonists brought them over during the 16th and 17th centuries. America does have native bees, but they don't produce honey. The only genus of bees that actually makes honey is the Apis genus, which are native to Europe, Africa, and Asia. I mean, if you think about it, this is why we have bee drill in Kanto. Maybe a different species, but they still make honey. Now, we have species that are intentionally introduced, like the starlings and the mongoose, but then you have the Florida invasive species I mentioned earlier. Those are most likely due to pets getting out during damage from hurricanes or something of the like. It's not always intentional. This unintentional integration is referenced by a certain crustacean-based Pokémon, Corphish. Its Ruby Pokédex entry reads, "Corphish were originally foreign Pokémon that were imported as pets. They eventually turned up in the wild. This Pokemon is very hardy and has greatly increased its population." This makes me wonder what region Corphish and Crawdon came from. Have we seen it yet? If we have, it's likely from Sinnoh, Kalos, or Unova, because the Pokédex entries from those regions don't say it came from afar. It doesn't even have to be as simple as losing a pet either. You can have some organism tag along with you on a trip and bingo bongo, you got yourself an invasive species event. I mean, bringing up the Galapagos Islands again, they have a strict policy about hiking boots and other equipment being brought onto the island needing to be inspected and cleaned to prevent introduction of non-native species. That's also why you see a lot of those boot cleaners at national parks and other hiking trails to prevent you from bringing things to other areas. You clean your boots there, and then anything that is part of that park is staying there. Anyway, there's an overview on invasive species and how Pokemon relates to it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and comment what topic you want to see next. If you don't want to miss a lecture, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can be notified anytime I post. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them below as well, and I'll do my best to answer them. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and until next time, class dismissed.